What's going on, everyone? So the San Antonio Spurs, right? Going into this season, this off season, there's a lot of questions about trading De'Aaron Fox, right? You had no idea at the time that you were going to land Dylan Harper. It was like, hey, do you give De'Aaron Fox the max? But it was like he basically forced his way there. You were able to get him for a bag of peanuts. Do you really want to kind of be like, well, hey, time to get off you type thing? Or do you want to kind of give this a moment to have a fair assessment, right? Take your time kind of integrating Dylan Harper and stuff like that. Stephon Castle, kind of let him see year two. What does he look like? How does he end up playing? And then you got into the season. De'Aaron Fox wasn't going to start the season, so you're like, okay, well, this will be a good opportunity to look at Stephon Castle, look at Dylan Harper, and then kind of give you a little sample size with that, and then De'Aaron Fox come back, and then you can kind of get a look at that, and just kind of, make your assessment. You don't want to jump the gun. You don't want to be too quick, too haste on it. And the Spurs went off to their best start in franchise history without De'Aaron Fox. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're better without De'Aaron Fox, right? Because you hadn't gotten to see De'Aaron Fox, but it was like, hey, team's winning. You go and you get De'Aaron Fox back. Good luck, right? That's kind of the idea. Because now you're getting back a guy that can, clutch in fourth quarter. He's up there in fourth quarter points, up there in clutch, all that stuff. And, you get De'Aaron Fox back. Dylan Harper goes down, so that hurts because he was, 15-5-5. And then I think right before he got hurt, he kind of dropped to 14-4-4. But basically, he was around a 15-5-5 guy for you. Applying great rim pressure. He was probably your best in like the two-man game, right? As far as like the pick and roll and Wemby and stuff. It was just like, man, when you see that start to develop, Stephon Castle has been phenomenal as kind of like your primary playmaker and basically your point guard. Little too turnover prone right now, but again, year two, he's young. It's nothing that I think is like panic mode right now, or like, hey, you know what, maybe he needs to not be on balls, but I don't think it's anything like that. Definitely something he needs to work on, but it'll come with time, right? And so it's like, okay, what do you do with De'Aaron Fox? Well, you start 2-0, so it's like, okay, maybe there's something here, right? And then you go and you play the Warriors, and you play a team with some experience, and you play a team that, has the ability to kick your behind, right? And it happened twice. In games that you should have won, that you were in control, right? Up 10 late. And then you have your guy in De'Aaron Fox who's supposed to be the closer, supposed to be the guy, supposed to be the one hitting the big shots down the stretch. And his shot selection and decision making was terrible. And he didn't have a bad game. He had a great game. But just, again, it's like, you're paying De'Aaron Fox a max. And it's not even about just the Warriors game. It's just the assessment that we've seen thus far. Now, it is early. It's not something that I would do today, right? You also want to make sure you get Dylan Harper back, right? But if you continue to see the things that you see, and this is kind of what it is, I do think you need to trade De'Aaron Fox, right? Because Stephon Castle is your primary ball handler, right? Like, he's your point guard playmaker, but he does have the ability to play off ball. He definitely needs to work on his 3-point shot, but he has the ability to kind of, again, be that Swiss Army knife. Guy I compare him to all the time is Jimmy Butler, because I think it's a great comparison, right? Jimmy Butler is one of the few stars that'll embrace the dirty work. He's one of the few stars that's willing to basically do whatever and sacrifice whatever as long as they're winning, right? He's one of those few stars. Like most stars, they need their usage, they need their reps, they need to go get their 20, they need to get their 20 shot attempts or 18 field goal attempts or whatever, right? Where a guy like a Jimmy Butler doesn't really care, right? Hey, you need me to just go get 10 assists? I'll get 10 assists. You need me to play defense and be the best defense player and impact the game and the dirty work ways? Sure, no problem. I'll do that, right? And Stephon Castle's that in a lot of ways. So I can see him and Dylan Harper working very well. Plus, Dylan Harper's really good at applying rim pressure. Like I said, he was probably the best, although small sample size, probably the best in kind of that two-man game with him and Wemby and various others. So, to me, if those two guys, regardless, are going to be your future, I talked about it, at some point you're probably going to have to move off of De'Aaron Fox regardless. But it's not something that you had to rush. You could have took in a couple years. Where I think based on what we're seeing thus far, again, it's early. I don't want to rush the gun here, but it is something that I think is worth kind of monitoring and discussing, to where if you can get, because there are, like, the Spurs still have clear needs, right? Like, I'd love a key upgrade at the 4, like a starting 4. I think Jeremy Sohan, I think this is probably his last year with the Spurs. Your 3 spot, Julian Champagne's holding down right now. Carter Bryant at some point, you hope can kind of take over that spot. I mean, he could even be your starting 4 at some point because of his size and his length and his defense capabilities. But even right now, like, if you could turn De'Aaron Fox into kind of like, hey, this is the guy that, let Castle be Castle, Dylan Harper be Dylan Harper, Wemby be Wemby. This is the other guy alongside. It might be worth kind of exploring and taking a look. Obviously, you're not trading him for a bag of peanuts. You're not just giving him away. But if you can find the right move, definitely think, you look at a team like, Minnesota, right? Could you get a Jaden McDaniels? Like that type of package where you got somebody that's just young, athletic, 2-way 3-and-D that can slot in at your 3 or your 4, right? And then imagine if Carter Bryant develops into the player that he's looking like he could be. I mean, that athleticism and that defense out on the perimeter alongside Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Castle, probably the best defensive team in all of basketball, probably one of the better offense teams in all of basketball. I just, imagine like a Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, Carter Bryant, or vice versa, Jaden McDaniels, and then a Carter Bryant, and then a Victor Wembanyama. I mean, you're probably the best 5-man starting 5 in all of basketball at that point, right? Like, so again, it just depends on a couple factors. How De'Aaron Fox continues to play with the Spurs. Can he be a winning player? Can he contribute to winning? Can he kind of find his footing in his role? I made a video and talked about, him kind of just being that aggressive kind of, let him just kind of be the scorer. Let Castle run and operate as your point guard because he's been really good in that regard. So you don't take away from Castle, kind of let Castle continue to do what he was doing. And then De'Aaron Fox just be aggressive and be a scorer, be a bucket getter. He's always kind of been more 2 than 1 anyway. So kind of just really embrace him as a 2 guard, let him kind of do his thing in that regard, and then you just kind of figure things out from there. That's kind of the idea. But again, Dylan Harper showed a lot of the promise already out the gate as a rookie, what he could do offensively and play-make-wise and all that stuff, to where, you might be okay. Again, I'm not saying you have to trade him right now or, even necessarily this season. You could kind of play it out this year and then kind of explore stuff, in the offseason, especially if a team like Minnesota fizzles out again early or something, maybe get that desperation start to kick in type thing. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Else, not. If you enjoy these types of videos, truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.